These are really exciting times for college football, but especially the University of Texas. If we would have thought at the first of the year that going into the last game of the year we would be talking about this football team being number 2 in the BCS with all of its hopes and dreams alive, we would be very excited. And then you look at what's happened this year for the Big 12. It's by far the best year in the history of the league. And you're looking at Missouri's already tied up the North, and they're in the BCS. You look at what Tech and Texas and Oklahoma have accomplished. It's just been amazing. And now the Big 12 should be talked about like every other league in the country that is so traditional and been around for a long time. It even makes it more special that for Texas and OU fans that we have our battle at midseason, but now people are still battling over who's the best team, and it's year-round. And to think that either one of those teams, ours or Oklahoma's, could still play in the national championship is really, really special for these two states and the history of that game and these two schools, and makes it a lot of fun. When you look at how we address the BCS and what we do with our players, what we did yesterday after practice, John Bianco and Bill Little brought out the BCS standings. They brought out the polls. I still don't know who the Harris poll is. It's interesting that coaches have to list their names and their votes. Media lists their names and votes, and the Harris poll doesn't have to do anything. So they're incognito. I can't believe you all allowed them to do that. But that's the only one you haven't uncovered yet. But John brought out those. He handed them to me, and I read them basically to the team. I read each poll. And then I read the BCS to the team and then asked any questions that they would have about what that means for us. And after that, we made a decision as a group that we would not discuss it anymore because we have a live audience for all the voters on Thursday night to see. And that's the only thing we could do to affect the BCS at all. Discussion doesn't help us. What ifs do not help us. Playing well and winning against A&M does help us with everybody in the country watching, because it's such a showcase not only of our football team but of A&M's and all the high school players in this state. And I'm excited that this will be the first time that I've been involved with a game on Thursday night for Thanksgiving, and got the Cowboys playing that afternoon. It should just be a great day and a lot of fun for everybody that's involved. But again, all we can do, everybody that votes in college football will be watching that game, period. So why discuss it? Why talk about it? What we can do about it is play well and win the game. And if we don't, then it's not a discussion. So we're not discussing it anymore for the rest of the week. The other thing is that, thank you, Bill. The other thing that we have changed a little bit, and partially because of the schedule, is the way we're preparing. We practiced yesterday. The guys went home. We did practice last week, 3 days. We ran one day, practiced 2. Guys went home Friday, Saturday, spent Saturday night at home, and they are really excited about this game because every one of them was back early. They were back an hour early before our meetings on Sunday and wanting to know what happened. I'm sure they all watched the game Saturday night, and practice was really good yesterday, so the guys are pumped and excited, and I'm proud of them. This team's done everything we've asked them. They've lost one game. On the last play of the game, they beat the number 1 team in the country. They've lost one game on one play on the road, last play of the game, and that's all they've done for a slip-up. So they're deserving of whatever is out there for them if they finish well. We practiced yesterday like it was our Tuesday practice during the week. We were in pads and had a very physical practice. We will practice today like it's our Wednesday practice in a normal week, and then we will have our Thursday practice tomorrow. And then we will not have our regular Thanksgiving meeting that we've always had the day before the game because it's not Thanksgiving and it's a very emotional meeting. So we will do that sometime during bowl practice. And we will not have anything special for the guys on Thursday because they can have their Thanksgiving on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And then what they will do is be back on Sunday like they normally would because we're not sure what's still out there for us. Hopefully, if we play well and win, hopefully we'll be preparing for Missouri next week. So that's what we've got, and the guys know. They're excited. They can't wait. They understand how important this game is to A&M. It will be their bowl game. It's like their national championship, and that's fine because we've got all that stuff involved too. And that'll be, I think it's a great matchup and a great game. You see the enthusiasm before Ohio State and Michigan last week. You see the enthusiasm before Louisville and West Virginia. That's what rival games are all about. That's why people say you throw out the stats and you throw out the records, because it's about emotion and it's about who plays best on that day. And I think it should be a great game. Questions?
Coach, you say obviously you got to win, but how much do you have to win by to impress people? I know number one is to win the game, but in this system you got to do a little styling.
When you talk about people, everybody's different. Some people don't care about style points. Somebody will look at our game with Oklahoma and say that was enough. Some people will say this team's played great. Some want this, some want that. So how do you know? What you have to do is be yourself. We need to beat A&M, and that's it. And it would be very, very disrespectful to A&M for anybody to sit in and talk about anything other than playing the game.
Coach, how do you keep your kids focused and not listening to the pundits who have all the questions out there and everybody debating back and forth? Your team needs to focus.
We've told them that all those people that are debating and talking have very little input. They have input, and they will decide where they play at the end of the year by how they play, and that's fair. So if this is like a playoff, this is as close as we can get. All eyes are on them to do your job Thursday night and show people how good you really are. And if you don't play that well, then you didn't play that well. So you don't deserve anything beyond what's out there for you because you were a good team instead of a great team. So we've talked about that all week, and they need to stay focused on what's important. They need to do whatever they've been doing to get them to 10-1. They really had the same situation at Kansas, except it was away from home, and it was really, really cold and windy, as is evidence.
Coach, one of the things that you don't talk a lot about is if you can come up with a victory, this is your 200th win as a head football coach.
Thank you, Keith, and that's very unimportant this week. It just means you've been around for a long time, and I appreciate that. But this game to us is more important than anything that is individual about a coach or a player, because for us to be in the mix for the national championship in 2005 was fun for Texas and Texas fans, and for us to be back in that mix 2 years later, 3 years later is a lot of fun, and I like it. It's exciting, and this should be a great week.
You talked about how this is one of your favorite teams you've coached the leadership on it. How is this team different than the 05 team in some of those things?
The 05 team had an expectation that unless they played SC for the national championship, they had a bad year, because they had just beaten Michigan, and Vince said on the field, we'll be back. So that was a setup. So what we had to do with that team is keep them interested in playing USL and the teams until they got to a point where they could play for the national championship. This team was projected fourth in the Big 12 South. It was projected to maybe win 7 or 8. There's absolutely no way that they could possibly win 10 games. So it's been more fun because it's kind of a surprise for everybody, me included, that they've done so well, and they've done it because they've just done everything right.
Adding to that, how have you changed as a coach since you won the national title? Do you feel like you've changed much at all?
I don't think I've changed. I go back and look at it. I think that maybe if there is a change, it's that my expectation is for us to play for a national championship every year and win it. And that's what Bobby Bowden and Joe Paterno told me. After you win the first one, it's hard, but after you get it, you're going to want a second one. It's much harder than the first one, and you won't care. But I'd say that my standards have gone way up, and that may not be fair to our team some, but that's the way it is.
Coach, you feeling okay?
Yes. Just sound bad.
Coach,
Thank goodness I don't have to play.
when you look back at these last two games against A&M, two very different type of losses, is there something, though, is there one thing or a few things that you didn't see that you've been trying to communicate to the team you want to see this year?
We thought they were more physical than we were in both games. And our team needs to be really physical on Thursday night because A&M's going to be. And that we felt that was the biggest difference. We didn't win the line of scrimmage either year. And when you don't win the line of scrimmage, then you have trouble scoring. We didn't make a 4th and 6 inches out here 2 years ago, which would have made a huge difference in the game. Last year we had the awful start, so we need to get a good start. We need to be physical.
So what were some of the questions that the players asked you about the BCS yesterday? You said
it's funny, we've discussed it so much, and you all have discussed it so much, they really had absolutely no questions. Because they didn't. There wasn't one hand up. And that's good because we've kept them posted where they don't have to ask. And I feel like I've got a pretty good feel of it. It was funny, I was thinking this morning that the BCS has accomplished what they wanted they've got everybody talking about it. They've got everybody talking about college football this time of the year, and at the same time, wouldn't a playoff be great right now with the top 8 teams? Because there's no question that someone will get left out that's a really good football team. And it's a discussion this week. Next week, it's a problem. And that's what you have. So that's where it's unfair, I think, to the college kids and the fans and the coaches, because there'll be a good team get left out. And it was funny in 2004, people jumped on me for what they called politicking or whining, and I just said I thought we had a good enough team that we should be in the BCS. So somebody look, and now the BCS modern day has forced coaches into standing up. So I guess I was a trendsetter. It's kind of cool. It's not called whining anymore. It's called my coach is standing up for me. Amazing what 4 years will do for you.
Coach, you had said the tone of this team started when the team lost to Texas A&M last year. Do you feel like this is coming full circle, like this is a test of accomplishing what you guys set out to do after that loss?
We do. We weren't happy walking in after that game. None of us. We weren't happy for Texas fans or ourselves or the players, and a change was made at that time, and it's been put in place, and these kids have played hard every day since that day, and that's why I expect them to play hard on Thursday night. I expect them to be tough on Thursday night, and I expect them to play well. That we're not talking a lot about the last 2 years because this is a different team than the last 2 years. This team has not had a flat game. They haven't had a soft game. They've been excited every week, and I thought last week probably that's the week we didn't play well at Kansas State, and that's the week we didn't play well at Oklahoma State, and this bunch played well. So this is a different team, so we're really not talking much about last year.
Do you see it though as a turning point perhaps?
In life with people and football teams, it turns and turns back and turns back, and it's full circle just like our families and just like our lives, and I've always said that sports is just a little bit of what life's about every day, and it changes, and it's ever changing. It's one of the fun things about it. You get a guy hurt, you got to adjust. You're struggling in a game. The adjustments you make are try to change momentum more than anything else in a game where things aren't going well. Get it fixed. You can't just say we didn't play well. You've got to get it fixed during that ball game, and it's the same way with your program. There's days and years where the program's going well, and then you have little setbacks in your program, whether it's an injury, a transfer, a junior leaving early. All those things are things that you just have to be multitasking and handle, and I think the coaches have handled this really well. But, I mean, every day is an excitement when you got 130 teenagers that determine whether you eat or not.
Coach, what were your thoughts on how OU played on Saturday?
I didn't get to see it. I was at my son Matt's wedding, and Bill Little was texting me the score, so I didn't have to listen long. I text Bill at 42-7 and said, "Gotcha, thank you. I'll go to the reception." But my son Matt got married in Chapel Hill on Saturday night at 6 o'clock, so I didn't get to see any of the game.
Coach, what about the seniors we'll say goodbye to at the state, especially Quan Cosby, who's had seems like a long career since he's an older guy when you first recruited him here? Yeah,
these seniors have been great. You want your senior class to be about leadership, on and off the field, and I think this senior class has been as hands-on with this team as any I've ever seen. I mean, they threatened them Saturday. He gonna let you go home? You act right. You make sure you come back and do things right. And if Brian Orakpo threatens me, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not messing up. But they've just been great. I really think that you take everything else away from this football team, and senior leadership has been the reason it's so good. And then you've got Jordans and Colts, and there's a lot of juniors that have stepped into that too. But for this team, our senior leadership was great in 2005, but again, the team was so good. I mean, that team just is going to be how bad were we going to beat them? This team's had to play. And then to overcome that stretch that they did, that the toughest four-game stretch in maybe the history of college football, much less the University of Texas stretch, for them to do that and not whine and not say we're tired and not get down and keep working and practicing, I'm really proud of this team.
You talk about Gerard Johnson, and then also McGee says he'd obviously love to be in this ball game as well.
Yes, let's start with Stephen. We recruited Stephen. He played at Burnett with Jordan, and they were great players. They dominated high school football that year, and really a junior and senior year for Jordan's father. And Stephen's been a great player. It was always people labeled him as a runner, and we saw him in high school as such a great passer. We wondered if he'd run because he never ran the ball at Burnett. but he beat us with the option 2 years ago and beat us with his arm last year, and played with a lot of confidence. And I think he's probably been the biggest difference in those two ball games. You look at what Gerard's done. We recruited him. His family was Aggie all the way, and we knew he was a great player when he got there. He's got everything. He's big, he's tall, he's fast, he can throw, he can think, he can scramble, he makes plays with his feet. So he is obviously the guy for the future, and I think he's really, really good.
Coach, it seems like obviously you said everyone's going to be watching this game on Thursday night. It seems like this would be a good stage for Colt's Heisman candidacy as well.
What I think, personally, I guess I should say, is that Colt has done more for his team than anybody else because he's rushed for over 500 yards. He's our leading rusher. And he's with a team that was not expected to do well, and he's thrown for over 3,000 yards. And after Thursday night, he will break records that only Vince Young, with their feet and their arm, and Bobby Lane have broken. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty good group to be in. Their jerseys are hung up out there in the stadium. And then you start thinking about what Tim Tebow did for his team last year. It's the same thing. So to me, that you look at all the other candidates, and they are great candidates. The Heisman race is kind of like the BCS race. There will be some really good players left out, and that's a shame, because how do you pick? Because they're all really, really good. Same thing with the BCS. We're talking about a one-loss USC team can't get in the BCS to play for a national championship. I mean, they're pretty good. So how do you slip them? How do you put this? How do you do those things? That team beat Ohio State 35-3. To start the season, had one slip up on the road. But what I do think about Colt, and I can say this without question, he has done more for our team running and throwing than any other quarterback has done for their team this year. And I don't think there's any doubt that we would not be in this position today unless it was for him. He means to this team what Vince Young meant to the one in 2005. Thank you, folks.
I'm trying to.